Why am I here? Shit, man, where do I start? 185.6. That was Carla's overall power level when I saw her for the last time. The power level, or PWR, was a quick way to quantify how much combat training a Shadowgun had undergone, along with their current firepower at hand. My wife had been one of the quickest paced recruits the training officers had ever seen. The rigorous ascendancy program placed Shadowguns to be in daily simulated combat. Grouped in 2 teams of 4, a complex VR system created entire environments for recruits to practice with the vast array of weapons and armor available. During matches, everything was logged, and the best performers were rewarded with better guns and a higher power level during the next training session. The ascendancy program was a simulation, but it was still quite a rough process considering the physical and mental strength required to see it through. Despite high hopes of ribbons and ranks, most new recruits tap out before their power level hits even 30. Shadowguns don't even see combat until they reach 150. And even then, it's usually easy cleanup work, dealing with a few grunts or an escort mission supporting some of the Marine troops. The real dangerous campaigns were reserved for Shadowguns with the power level of 250. By then, one was more than comfortable with combat techniques and keeping people alive when shit hits the fan. It's weird living a civilian life while your wife trains to be a space mercenary. During our evening video chats, Carla would ramble on about the ins and outs of her training, while I tried to keep my eyes from swelling up. I missed her endlessly. But I could tell Carla enjoyed developing her natural ability as a Shadowgun. She was acing the Ascendancy program and led her group in a few key stats, including headshots of all things. She spoke with the confidence that I'd never heard from my wife before, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had held her back this entire time. I certainly couldn't now. She was always neat and resourceful, so to no surprise, she preferred the control of a burst rifle instead of a fully automatic weapon. The decision made her a more focused shot with incredible accuracy. Day after day, she'd roll out simulated headshots instead of emptying an entire clip just to bring down her ascendancy opponents. During our evening chats, she'd gleefully exclaim, "Headshots mean I'll have plenty of ammo left for the next torment fucktard I see." She said that eerie little mantra so much during her race to level up that I secretly made a drinking game out of it. Our marriage quickly became a forgotten memory. It kind of felt like a piece of armor she'd outgrown. As Carla's power level neared 125, I began to come to terms with the potential end of our marriage. Once a soldier reaches a 125 power level, contact back home must cease. It was a bitter pill that lodged in my throat with every call, seemingly expanding with every ribbon she earned. Civilians commonly refer to the achievement as the 5th quarter. The double entendre refers to 5 quarters equaling 125 cents. The 5th quarter also implies a regular game is over, and those still around are fully prepared for sudden death. Leading into Carla's 5th quarter, our nightly chats changed. I heard less about the zippy fire rate of her Takahashi and more about the news from the front line. Training officers had been showing them footage to prepare the squad. With the newly acquired monotone, Carla would describe the terrifying gunfights occurring with steroid-enhanced alien freaks and androids. Her excitement had swayed a lot. She sounded a bit more like my wife, if I'm being honest. I heard a vulnerability in her voice that I thought didn't exist anymore. The reappearance of the woman I loved restored a pain that I'd long numbed. I started to truly miss her again, so filled the void with a deep resentment of myself. With every war tale, I'd think, I should be out there fighting too. She must be so ashamed of me as I watched the galaxy at arms from the sidelines. Our last video chat could be better described as a mercy killing. By now, every bit of Carla's energy was committed to her Shadowgun training. It had to be. She was about to cross the threshold from simulations to actual missions. Mistakes would mean her death or worse. There would be no time to worry about a husband that's too scared to even suit up and fight for his own survival. Our final goodbye may have included the words, "I love you." I couldn't really hear anything over the voices in my head calling me a coward. The Shadowgun is nice enough to send family members battle reports of their loved ones every few weeks. An encrypted email contained Carla's stats, her power level, recent missions, and combat awards. Heck, even on occasion, I could see combat footage of her action. I cherished the highlights and watched in amazement as my wife, the space mercenary, plucked off mutants from long range so Marines could push forward on the ground. She was truly incredible. Carla's prowess with the burst rifle made her a favorite for conflicts that required heavy supporting fire. One day she was asked to assist on a mission that would normally be reserved for higher-ranking Shadowguns. The Marines were currently planning a huge counteroffensive called Operation Zero, meant to recapture the planet Iraq from the Torment and turn the tide of the war. To reclaim the planet, Marines on the ground would handle most of the grunts and low-level soldiers in close-range combat. Carla and several other Shadowguns would be assigned to overlook the conflict from afar and efficiently pick off big targets and elites via supporting fire. It was officially a task suited for someone at level 200, but high-ranking recruits were running a bit thin these days, so exceptions were made. Carla's 185.6 was the highest ranking power level of all the Shadowguns sent to help the Marines right outside of Burnt Mountain. To this day, I don't think it was the right move. Operation Zero was a huge effort, and various Shadowguns like Carla were equipped with a helmet cam that streamed the footage back to base, so it could be researched for intel. Civilians could view the combat footage of their loved ones after a few days. I initially thought of it as a display of mercy for civilians like myself who missed their loved ones. In retrospect, I think it may have been a way to make us want to join in on the fight. Regardless, I watched every one of Carla's missions once they were uploaded, and man, was she incredible. Perched from hundreds of yards away, she'd use her newly upgraded Takahashi to pepper support fire right between the eyes of Torment Crushers. She wasn't mic'd, but I swear I could hear her mantra with every cracked cranium. Headshots mean I'll have plenty of ammo left for the next Torment fucktard I see. For a while, I took a drink whenever she scored a headshot. It quickly became clear that my body would not keep up with her trigger finger. I missed my wife, but was honestly becoming obsessed with the super soldier Carla had become. Operation Zero quickly became her highlight reel. She was a tactical angel. On countless occasions, I watched her carefully pop a single bullet into an exploding barrel, knocking out entire sections of Torment soldiers at a time, and saving the group tons of ammo and anguish. Enemy numbers began to thin, and the Marine she overlooked started to grow confident. When a small Torment ship was seen approaching in the distance, they confidently prepared for another victory. The footage from Carla's cam tragically documented just how wrong they were. The Torment ship landed in the distance, out of range of some of the Marines with shotguns, but well within the scope of the Shadowguns. Carla wasted no time in peppering off 3 quick bursts as the ship doors opened. The headless body of a grunt fell out of the ship. Headshots mean I'll have plenty of ammo left for the next Torment fucktard I see. The battle was on. Swarms of Torment soldiers began to cascade out of the ship. The first round of grunts stormed at full speed into the Marines' front line, making it tricky for the Shadowguns to pick them off from a distance. For a while, the Marines fared well in close range, relying heavily on shotgun fire and sheer numbers. The Shadowguns used the opportunity to run a somewhat risky move by flanking the combat on the side for a closer shot at the Torment. As Carla stormed ahead in the footage, I remember cheering for her like a hero in an action movie. To my surprise, Torment soldiers could be seen running back to the ship. It seemed like a retreat was near. A few Torment soldiers reached the ship and re-entered, while the rest on the ground set up a defensive perimeter around the entry ramp. One by one, Carla picked off soldiers on the perimeter with headshots, only to watch another stand in their place. Minutes passed and the ship didn't move, so I began to wonder if this really was a retreat after all, or some kind of trick. Suddenly, a bright flash could be seen from the ship. followed by a torrential wave of new soldiers. The numbers didn't add up at all. There was no way a ship this small could carry a fleet this size, and the Shadowguns knew it. Wave after wave of grunts, crushers, and thorns began to emerge from the ship, and they crushed through the Marine forces at alarming speed. Perplexed by the sheer amount of enemies, Carla decided to make a dash for the ship to find out what the fuck was really happening. In bursts of 3, she'd arc the Takahashi rifle from left to right while shooting, delivering shoulder-to-shoulder headshots with a quick flick of the trigger. As she sped ahead, her gaze fixated on the entrance of the ship, while Marines and Torment soldiers dropped at her boots. I doubt she saw it, but in the distance I spotted a singular headhunter take aim at her from the ship's entrance. Carla was so fixated with reaching the ship that she didn't notice the red dot dancing by her toes. Headhunters start by aiming their laser sight near the target's running path. Then they slowly raise their arm, earning their name via headshot after headshot. Carla was running full speed ahead towards her combat doppelganger and didn't see him at all. I wondered if he too had a mantra for his kills.
Now, you don't have to go into detail about the next part if you don't want to, Frank. We understand it's a very
No, it's fine. We should all know what we're signing up for, right? You ever yell at a character in a horror movie as if they'll hear your advice? You're on the couch with a vein bulging out of your neck screaming, "Look out!" to a screen like it really matters. I was painfully hoarse by the end of that footage. Carla sprinted up the entry ramp to the ship, and we witnessed the first ever camera footage of a warp gate freighter. A massive floor-to-ceiling glowing orb glistened in the back of a ship with very little else aside from a neat stockpile of ammunition. There was no way in hell the amount of soldiers we'd seen could fit in this ship. I'd been so fixated on the orb and trying to put all this shit together, I forgot completely about the headhunter. Carla never even noticed him retreat behind the structure that housed the warp gate. As she stood in awe staring at the bright orange and iridescent flicker of the warp gate itself, I saw the familiar red dot of the headhunter's rifle creep across the ground, inching towards her feet again. I probably screamed at the screen if I had any voice left. I saw a speckle of the headhunter's rifle peek around the side of the warp gate, and suddenly the screen jerked. The body shot didn't kill Carla, it just stunned her. She reset her balance and turned to frame the headhunter just long enough to watch him squeeze the trigger again. The headshot was so clean. Her entire helmet rolled with the camera still intact. The next few hours of footage contained our first look at how warp gates work, and it pulled the scope of the war into a painfully crimson view. From the decapitated head of my wife, Shadowgun cameras witnessed wave after wave of Torment soldier teleport in through these warp gates. They didn't need to pack a ship full of soldiers anymore. Just a few to handle the early hostiles and install a gate. As you all probably know, that battle footage and the following slaughter on Burnt Bunker led a lot of us to enlist. Many consider Carla a martyr for her valuable intel and her sacrifice. They display her in some of the memorials in the hub, from what I hear. Listen, I'm not looking to avenge her or for any closure. There's no way to get there. I'm simply here to do my part so she doesn't have to die in vain.